people don't need information. I think they need camaraderie. Like they need, you know what I mean? At least that's what I need. I went through a really crappy time a couple years ago, and the only thing that got me through it were conversations like this and listening to podcasts and getting some solidarity from other entertainers and going like, okay, I'm not the only one who's dealing with stuff.
Podcasts, saved my life living in Orlando.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the About to Break podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Hughes, and I've got some great news for you. We've got some incredible producers who have made this show possible. Big cheer for the producers! That's right. Folks like you and I who just love these conversations and want to get them out there to as many people as possible. And because they give a little bit of a tip, $1 a month, $2 a month, $5 a month. We got folks who give $10 a month, and that money helps offset the cost of producing these and keeps it a free program for everybody. So thank you to all the producers. If you see a producer, give them a big hug or a high five and tell them they rock. Now, I've got some really exciting news. We figured out a way for you to support About to Break without spending a single extra dime. That's right. Do you shop on Amazon? You know you do. We all do. I get excited. It's like Christmas morning when you get the little box at the door. Well, here's the great news. Before you shop on Amazon, if you go to abouttobreakpodcast.com and click on the Amazon button on our page, it says shop our Amazon portal. Amazon is going to give the podcast some money for you supporting the podcast simply by buying the things you're already going to buy anyway. That's right. If you go on Amazon and you're going to buy something, go to our website first. Click on that one little button that says Amazon Portal, and that will take you to Amazon. You shop like you normally would, except for at the end of all of it, Amazon magically puts something in our stocking for you guys, just supporting the podcast by shopping through that portal. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who's shopping through the Amazon portal. It really does make a difference. Thank you to everyone who's rating and reviewing the show on iTunes and on Stitcher and Google Play, everywhere you listen to it. And thank you to all of the producers for making this show possible. Let's do it.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
This week on episode 40 of the About to Break podcast, I sat down with my new buddy Nick Paul, who's an incredible magician. I'm going to call him a modern-day vaudevillian because his act is very, very unique. You know, he does magic, but he also does comedy, and a lot of his comedy is done silently to music. So music is playing, he's performing, everyone gets it, everyone loves it. I met this guy when I was doing the Grab Bag show with Adam Grabowski. Actually, side note, I'm going to be doing the Grab Bag show this Sunday night, September 17th. If you're interested in that, click on the link here to go to that show. I met Nick there, was so impressed by him, then found out he had a podcast. I started binging his podcast, Two Magicians, One Mic. And we just said, hey, let's get together, let's sit down, and let's do a dual podcast. So this is our first ever podcast mashup. I'm so excited to have done it with Nick. He's a great guy. You're going to love it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Nick Paul.
We're recording.
Hey, we did it.
Oh my goodness.
We set up all this stuff.
We said it. We did.
Fancy.
I think sometimes artists just have to do things like this so we feel like we've done something tangible.
That's just my whole career.
we set up equipment.
Yeah.
We did it. We are in, this is weird, man. This is the first time I've recorded in a sound booth. We're in a sound booth at your apartment, this is the most Hollywood thing ever, dude. That
it
you
really
have
is.
A communal sound booth.
Yeah, there's a girl on our floor who just belts out like Mariah Carey style vocals every Saturday night at around 8 to 9 p.m. Luckily, we're down the hall enough we can't hear in our apartment, but it's just, yep, that's what happens here in L.A.
That's fantastic. You moved here 2 years ago?
Yeah, I was in Orlando for 4 years, and then Chicago for 6, and then I'm from Detroit suburbs originally.
Oh my goodness. Well, dude, this is fun. This is funny because we're both you and I are like, what do we do right now? Because you have a podcast called Two Magicians, One Mic.
I do, yeah.
Which I love. If you're listening to this on About to Break, go listen to Two Magicians, One Mic. It's fantastic.
I just want to say, in 2012, when we came up with that title, it was hilarious. Now I'm stuck with it.
Do you remember some of the other titles you considered? Did you or was it just from the get-go? You're like, what if we?
I came up with it with a friend of mine who was also performing it in Orlando at the time, Mark Toland. We started the podcast, and then he moved to Chicago, and I kind of kept doing it with different people. And we're like, yeah, that's going to be great. It's going to be funny forever. What could go wrong?
No one's going to get tired of this.
No one will.
Let's have a title where we have way too many magicians and not enough microphones.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we have 2 magicians, 2 microphones. So about to break 2 microphones with 2 magicians.
Just for clarity, there are 2 microphones and 2 magicians in the room.
The sad fact is there's always 2 microphones when I record.
I know. Do you know that's one of the questions I had for you was like, do you really just use one mic?
For the longest time we did because 2 mics are expensive.
Right.
But,
well, I like to imagine as I'm listening to it that you're just seated like in a booth, like at a diner together, sharing one microphone.
That's my goal, and I've tried it, and it's just too loud and too much background noise going on for people to listen.
Yeah, this is great, man. Usually when I record, I'm in my living room or in someone else's living room, trying to keep the dog or the kids or the air conditioner quiet.
Yeah, the amount of barking on half of my podcasts from my dog in the other room is uncanny.
That's amazing.
But thank you for doing this crossover episode, cross promotion.
This is how Los Angeles works.
Exactly.
This is networking to the T.
Exactly. I want to compliment your podcast because you were smart because you have other entertainers on. I just put myself in a corner and said we're just going to do all magicians, see? And then my downloads they're fine, but I don't think it's broad for everybody.
There's a lot of magicians out there. Especially in Los Angeles.
There are, yeah.
This is where I think most places in the country you probably never meet or run into a magician, but there's a good chance in Los Angeles 1 out of 10 people's a magician.
And I would say 5 out of 10 are really good. Just solid, amazing performers.
Yeah.
And as my friend Armax, who I interviewed on here, said, he's like, yeah, he came to L.A. because there aren't enough magicians in L.A. already. Thanks for doing that.
It's so funny, man. Los Angeles is so weird. How's it been for you moving here from... Well, you moved originally from Detroit.
Yeah, so I went to college in Chicago. Yep. My wife and I went down to Orlando to perform at Disney World.
Okay.
And then came out here 2 years... Almost, we're hitting the 2-year mark.
And how does this differ from Orlando as far as like career-wise and opportunities?
People have personalities.
People don't have personalities in Florida?
They do, but they're just... There's something in the water in Florida. And, I mean, be safe out there. There's a hurricane coming. Be safe. Take care of yourself. And I have a lot of friends in Florida still. They're all great people and have been super supportive and helped my career immensely. But when people make fun of Florida, it is warranted.
It's mostly accurate.
It is a very strange place.
Well, a lot of people... LA is a destination when you're young, and Florida is a destination when you're old.
Sure,
right? It's like,
yeah. Or if you're Cuban, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
A lot of Latino and Cuban communities there, and it's just a hodgepodge. Just like here, it's just a hodgepodge of people, and you can go from one end of the state to the other, and it feels like very different places.
Oh yeah, totally. Northern Florida. Well, Florida is interesting, like California, in that it's it's a long state, so there's a lot of space to spread out.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been good so far. We like it. We're just grinding along, trying not to go broke. That's what you do in LA.
You are a married man.
You see, yeah.
Yeah. How long you guys been married?
3 years and 3 months, 4 months.
Wow! Like so you guys got married, and then like almost a year later said, "Let's go to LA."
Yeah, we moved a year and a half later.
Okay.
Yeah, and spent most of the money we received as gifts from the wedding to move to LA.
Oh yeah.
We just
keep the money dance going.
Just watching your saving. It'll cost like $5,000 to move to LA.
Yeah.
Add another 10.
Yeah. Los Angeles is expensive, man. That's why my family lives 40 miles outside of Los Angeles.
Man, you're so smart.
I don't know.
You have a house, probably.
We have a house. But I also spent a lot of time in the car. Like I was. Yeah. It is. What time is it? It's noon. It's noonish on a. What day is it?
Wednesday.
Do you find that you don't ever know what day it is as an entertainer?
If I'm busy,
yeah.
If I know exactly what day it is if I have a week of no shows.
Oh yeah.
God, it's Tuesday at 1 o'clock.
It's Tuesday. Time to be sad. Yeah, so I was out here less than 12 hours ago. I was in LA. I went to a show last night at UCB.
Okay, how was that?
It was great, man.
What show was that?
It's a faculty show. So UCB does Tuesday nights. Yeah, it's like the teachers' lounge. They kind of hang and do a show. But what's funny is, and I tweeted this morning because this is Los Angeles for you. Monday night, I'm at home watching Maria Bamford's new Netflix special and just loving it. And Tuesday night, I'm sitting next to her watching some improv teachers perform. Because that's what happens in Los Angeles.
My wife is on a writing group right now that formed from a UCB class, so they're doing their own sketch and improv stuff. And one of the girls in her group is taking an improv intensive at UCB.
Yeah.
And Maria Bamford's in the class.
She's taking the class.
I'm like,
what in the world?
I told that to my friend yesterday who's not from LA.
Yeah.
He's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh.
But if you live in LA, it does, because it's people in classes here are writing on TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
They're famous comedians.
Oh, it's crazy.
You just do it because you can here. It's a whole different. That was something I had to adjust to moving out here. If it's just like, yeah, that's what you do. That's what happens here, and it's weird. You get over it and you don't at the same time.
What do you mean you get over it?
You get over how weird that is.
That it's just normal.
That's normal. Yeah.
Well, and here's what you find: everybody's just trying to work. Like,
yeah.
I mean, people who just put out a Netflix special are working to try to get another thing. You know?
Yeah.
There's something I geek out about this a lot, but you ever feel like you're just constantly going to job interviews? Like, I mean, every show you do, you want to do great, but then if you're lucky, they'll maybe hire you again a year from now.
And I was listening to Jim Jeffries talk about this I was always somebody who's like, I got to try out new material and work on things. And I kind of learned that if you're doing like a 10-minute spot, don't try out new material because you want to kill every time. And I'm learning that if I want to try out new stuff, I'll put it in if I'm doing like a 30 or 40-minute show. Sandwich it in the middle. I did that 2 weeks ago when I was on a ship, and it's like, okay, you can figure, all right, when I did the castle this week, I added in one new thing that was in the middle so I could really work on it and hone it, and I could get the different audience responses and see if it's working or if it's not. But if you're doing like a 5 or 10-minute set, don't go up there and do brand new material because it sucks, but that's how people are going to remember you. Yeah,
and you never know. I mean, I even think when we met, the night we met was at Adam Grabowski's show.
Mm-hmm. That was a fun show.
That was I
never walk off the stage and go, I killed. I'm like, I think I killed.
You did great. Well, and what I loved about it was
same to you. Likewise.
Oh, thank you, man. But I loved that like you went up there like right toward the beginning. I think he opened and then brought you out.
I thought I had a guy in front of me, so I was like rushing to get on stage.
Yeah, you just went out there and did really freaking good. And what was great is Howie Mandel's hanging out in the back watching and just cracking up. Like
Howie Mandel, what? I thought he left.
Oh no,
that's amazing.
No, he was there during your set, man.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it was funny. Howie Mandel came in and dropped in and was trying out new material, and I would say we both did better than Howie Mandel in that case, which was not something I think I would ever. Because I think he's a great comedian and wonderful, but that just shows he's trying out new material and trying to get stuff to work for. I think it was like a charity thing he was doing.
Yeah, the more I work with comics, and we could talk all day about the difference between magicians and comedians, but magicians, I feel like, tend to have this idea of like every show's got to be great for the audience. Like I've got to create this experience for this audience.
Yeah.
And most of the comics I work with, and understandably so, they're like, I'm going to do this tonight if there's nobody here. Like, I'm just going to see if these jokes work or how I want to phrase. Like, most comics going up in LA they're just working on their stuff for something that they're going to look forward to down the road.
Yeah.
It's different, though. Like,
it's different for us because, if there are 8 or 10 people in the audience, I'm just like, I don't really want to. Like, one of our shows this weekend when I was in the castle, we had, like, every show was filled except for one. It was only, like, 20 people.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it even worth it to be doing this show? Like, the audience was fine, but it was a later crowd, and they were a little bit sleepy and, drunk. And They were fine as far as like Drunk Castle audiences go. They were totally fine, but we're like, I'm just kind of overthinking it, going, do we really need to be doing this show? Because it's not going to be as good as it could be if it was a full audience. But a comedian is going to be out there going, yeah, wow, 20 people showed up. This is great.
Yeah, that Peller is a funny vibe too. I did it a couple months ago.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because like, I don't know, the room is small enough that you really feel the show.
Yeah.
So what's awful is like you do a show and you're like, that was amazing. The next show may be really good, but if it doesn't feel the same, I go backstage and I go, what happened? What went wrong?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's and for me, I rely on music a lot. So the way the sound dude Rick works it is he kind of keeps it a little bit lower. And it's not quiet, but just the way that room is, you can't blast the audience. Yeah. And I'm behind the speakers.
So you can't really hear.
It doesn't sound loud enough for me, so I have to like readjust all my stuff because I'm used to reacting to the music and reacting to the audience, and I'm just it's a weird exercise. And especially in a room that intimate. I usually don't do silent stuff in a room that intimate. Yeah. So it's weird to kind of adjust that and make it work. But it's a good space. It's fun.
That's cool, man. You were working with David Kovac.
Mm-hmm. The modern-day vaudevillian, yes.
So freaking good, man.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's
so
super
good.
Fun to work with.
Well, it's when I saw that you post that you guys were going to be performing together, I was like, this is perfect. Because that was the first time I saw you perform was at the Grab Bag show. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's so freaking unique and different. And it's just...
Oh, that's very nice.
You see what David does and what you do, and I'm like, oh, this is a really good fit. Was it?
Yeah, he's very verbal and linguistic, and then I come out and don't say much at all. Yeah, it was just we've worked together in Chicago. I met him there, so it was fun to kind of come back together. And we were performing at a place called Navy Pier, which is like basically a glorified mall.
Okay.
If anyone's ever been there, but it's just a long pier in Chicago, and they had a couple stages, one outdoor, one indoors, and it's fine. But you're performing for people who didn't expect to see a show, and it's an echo box. And
isn't that all of our shows though? Like I feel, you do ships, right?
Yeah, I do a few here and there. I'm starting to do them more and more, but they come and go. I wouldn't call myself a full-time ship performer by any means.
Yeah, those are theatrical audiences, though, right? I've never done a cruise ship. I've been on a cruise ship, but never performed.
It depends on the cruise line, Okay. Some are older audiences, people, 60, 70, 80, upper age, so you have to readjust your show. You can't bring that many people up on stage.
And even accessibility to the stage is kind of challenging.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, why didn't you put any steps at the front of the stage? This is an interactive thing. And then the ship I did last week, that was Disney, and that's more families, and I have a lot more fun on there. Yeah, that was only my second time doing it. I would hope to do more in the future. That's my goal. But the audiences are usually pretty fun, and it's funny. We were going up to Alaska, and I've done it in like the Bahamas, Caribbean before, and the audiences are just super chill going up to Alaska. They're like more nature type people, and everybody was really nice and really kind. So. Yeah, it's good. Every ship is different. Every audience clientele in a ship is different, so you just kind of have to know what you're getting into.
There's this idea sometimes that like your stuff needs to work for everybody, which I think magicians just kind of have learned.
Yeah.
But
Simon and I have talked about this there's nothing wrong with having a show that appeals to everybody, but I think that you still have to have your own perspective, and you still have to find a way to be quote-unquote unique, whatever that means. Because, as a magician, you're just going to be labeled as, we saw the magician.
Right.
So you're just always kind of fighting that, which is a double-edged sword. It's a good and bad thing to fight against. And I'm sure comedians, obviously have that too.
Well, how many times have you run into someone who goes, we just were on the ship and we saw this magician, he was great, and they list everything he did, and then you say, what was his name? And they can never remember.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's, I think, I struggle with that problem too. That's the biggest problem with not talking is I can't, I love when people, someone brings someone up on stage. I think I've seen you do it where, hi, what's your name? I'm Taylor. What's your name? Great. And just reminding the audience what your name is genius. There should always be a sign of your name sitting there. They should always know who they're watching.
Yeah.
Theoretically, it ends up good because then they'll give you reviews and,
That's a big thing on ships is like, these are the people. You were just talking with Simon, I think, about this. These are the people who are kind of deciding whether or not you're going to come back and work again, right?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Yeah, you got to get good reviews. You have to. The cruise director has to like you. All these little things come into play that you're like, well, what if the show was just good?
Right. Can we just have a good show?
Yeah, and what if if you get like 1 or 2 bad reviews, it sucks. You're done.
I was dying because I was last Friday I had a show for the Pachanga. It's an Indian casino out toward Palm Springs area. But it was like an employee appreciation event. And so what it was it was going to be a 2-hour block that I was going to perform in. And then later on in the day, they'd have the employees on the different shift come in, right? And I was listening to your podcast with Eric on the way out and you guys talking about like the times you've bombed the worst.
Sure.
And I did that dumb thing where I was like, oh, it's been a while since I've had a rough show. On the way, I was like, wow, it's been a little bit, I've had a lot of bad shows, but it's been a little while. Like, I felt like I was in a groove. Yeah. And dude, that show was a nightmare.
Oh, no. Please go on. Tell the details.
But I was just sitting there. I was thinking about you. I think I texted you. I was like, I'm looking forward to doing the podcast. Remind me to tell you this story. Because I was like,
oh, yeah.
Because I was like, it was just, so the whole deal was, it was going to be this 2-hour block where they could take their lunch break. They come into this room. It's set up with round tables, like all these events are. Little tiny stage, really bad hotel sound system. And basically, there's no host, like nobody's saying anything, nobody's introducing me. I'm going to do strolling magic, then I'm going to hop up and perform like 30 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Then I'm going to do strolling magic, and different people are going to come up, and I'm going to hop up and perform for 30 minutes.
Oh, no. That sounds awful.
And it was just everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like, you ever work for you don't know what's going on in this, environment or what happened right before then or
sure.
if they ever do events like this or if this team only gets together at this time.
Yeah.
But it just felt like a group of strangers forced to sit and watch someone do something and they didn't know why.
You're literally defining every corporate event.
Oh my gosh, we could talk about corporates. And then I had like a 5-hour break before the next one.
Holy shite.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god.
So I freaking did. I did like 11
This is why you're a nice guy, and I would get that contract and be like, no, that's not going to work for me.
Oh, dude, no, I just needed the money.
Well, that's also I take that back. I would have just been, yep, okay, right? Sure, whatever you need.
Okay, I'm going to get paid. Okay.
Yeah,
man, and then the shows that night, same setup, same show, went great.
Nice.
I couldn't figure out what it was.
It was just lunch. After lunch shows.
Nothing good happens.
Well, Dave and I were talking about that at the Peller this weekend. And for some reason, not every show, but a lot of the times the 10 o'clock show, you do an 8 to 10, 11. The 10 o'clock, people are quieter. I think the alcohol's really starting to set in.
Some of them just came from dinner. They ate that huge
they're full.
steak.
He would call them the after lunch shows of people that weren't prepared to see a show, and that's probably exactly it.
That's my struggle because and anyone who listens to my podcast has heard this way too much, but my way I pay my mortgage is corporate events. Mm-hmm. That's what pays the bills. But then there's this artistic side of me that's constantly battling because I know what works for those events, but it's not the thing that fulfills me or, you know what I mean? It's like, you're not doing something that's really,
I totally get that. When I have to do, when I do ships or when I do corporate events, I have to go into more talking stuff, so I can't do my artsy-fartsy silent comedy guy just because it doesn't work. I've done it and it just falls flat. So when I do that, I don't feel like I'm being as true to who I want to be on stage, but it like you said, it just comes back to, well, that's how you have to pay the bills. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's one thing, you should know what you're going for, but you should also know if you're doing this full time. If you're not doing this full time, be artsy as much as you want. If you have another job, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in our case, it's like you have to take those gigs to pay your mortgage, or in my case, pay my really expensive LA rent.
Jeez, which is probably equivalent to my mortgage.
I bet you I'm paying more for my 630 square feet. This is a nice place. We got a studio,
it's
but
very nice.
Our apartment is 630 square feet. We just re-signed the lease. I know.
630. Our first condo was 657.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice. We got a fridge, which is a big plus in LA.
That's pretty much what you need, right?
We were thinking about moving, and although the amount of photos you see of apartments that are reasonably priced but don't have a fridge, it's like, wait, I have to supply a fridge? How is that in the deal? And it's like normal in LA. You call them up like, yeah, there's no fridge. Why are you mad about that?
Yeah, no one eats at home in Los Angeles.
It's kind of true.
It's true. There's a lot of good food in LA.
Yeah, we eat out way too much. That's where the rest of our money goes.
Yeah.
Do you have kids?
I do, man.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
And my oldest just turned 12.
Wow, okay.
We started young. I'm 36, but I've worked hard to look older.
Well, you got the Anderson Cooper thing going on. I like it.
Jeez, man.
No, I mean, Steve Martin did it, Anderson Cooper, you got all these people.
You know?
Gray is the new, man. Gray's the new look.
Gray's the look. I don't know. Yeah, but we got 2 daughters and a dog. And we had a house, again, like out that way, out east, that we sold 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then we just rented for a long while, trying to figure out. We didn't know we were going to stay in LA for a long time. Mm-hmm. But then we found this little neighborhood. We live in Upland, which is out off of like the 10 freeway and almost to the 15.
Okay.
So if you know where the LA County Fair is, it's out that direction.
Okay. So how long does it, like on a typical day, how long does it take you to get to LA?
It will take me, on a typical day, if I give myself an hour, I can get downtown usually.
How many miles is that?
35, 40 miles.
Okay, that's what I do when I go down to Anaheim.
Yeah. So if you drew a line from Anaheim and Los Angeles toward the mountains, like a little L, you'd be right there at that point. So right along the foothills. But yeah, we love it, man. It's nice to be able to drive into LA, and I mean, I was here last night, and I'm here today, and then be able to have a little neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, for sure.
I dig it.
Yeah, that's cool.
We can't afford anything else.
We can't either. Neither can most of the people
Welcome to entertainment.
Yeah. It's either you've got that 9-season deal where you have all the money in the world, or you're just trying to get to that 9-season deal.
Right. What is your, I don't know if you talked, on an episode I've heard of your podcast, have you talked about what is your long-term desire as an entertainer?
Don't go broke.
Eating. I like to eat. I like to eat. Survive.
It's funny. I don't know. I have this love-hate relationship with goals because I've accomplished a lot of things I've written down coming out to LA, like performing at the Castle, doing ships, just meeting and working with guys I respect. It's really, I think my favorite thing is coming out here and just knowing that I've met and started working with guys that I've admired, and now they're friends, which is like a big deal for me, because 2 years ago, if you were to tell me that, or even, longer, I would be like, no, I don't think will ever happen for me. So that's cool. I don't know about long-term goals. I just want to keep doing cool shows and keep. Yeah. I love doing shows where I'm collaborating with people, like the show we did. Stuff like that on a larger scale, I would love to be a part of. That was one of the saving graces of doing House of Magic in Macau, was I got to work with a bunch of great magicians, and you're all kind of in this together, in the trenches together. Yeah. So stuff like that. As long as I can keep doing that. Anytime I have to go and do it like a solo show, it's really it's getting more and more depressing for me.
Yeah, talk about that, man. It's lonely. Like, people go, oh, it's cool you travel. I think Dave Cox was the first person who told me, he's like, here's what it's like doing ships. He's like, you travel in a nice airplane alone, and then they put you up in a hotel alone, and you go to the most exotic places in the world alone.
Yeah, it blows my mind. There's the past couple of ones I've done. Luckily, my wife was able to come with me last time, which helped out immensely. Yeah. Before that, I was able to make friends with some of the other circus performers or entertainers on there, which is great. But it blows my mind when I go on and I'm working with a comedian or another variety performer and they don't want to be friends. I'm like, you're like, here by yourself too.
We are all we have.
I just think one time, you want to go get some dinner after this? Nah. I'm like,
oh, man.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
We're literally here for 7 days alone, and we've both done our shows. We have nothing else to do, because you work like 1 or 2 nights, and then you just sit there.
This is something in entertainment that is challenging, in the fact that, you know, we always tell people, I tell my daughters, you're not defined by what you do.
Sure.
But as an entertainer, it's so hard, because it's like, if you're an actor and you're not acting, you don't feel like you're yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so there's this weird thing, like, when you're not working, or when you're on a ship and you're sitting around, or when you're, I mean, for me, it's like, I'll take 3 days to go back east to perform for 45 minutes.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all this time you're just sitting around, there's something weird that happens, at least for me mentally, where it's like, what's going on?
You start to overthink it. But what always is helpful is just kind of look around, look at the flight attendant, look at people who are working at Hot Dog on a Stick in the airport. It's like, I constantly remind myself, I'm like, that could be me very quickly. Like, this could all go away.
It's true, man.
So anytime you're having a bad day, and I am certainly guilty of that, of just like, you know, being a little bit too angry about things. If you're setting up in a show, or if something's not going quite right, you just have to take a breath and go, all right, it's just magic tricks. This is just performing.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I feel like I got to be careful, because a lot of magicians listen to your podcast. I don't know if they listen to mine.
I don't think. If I get, like we were talking about this, like, podcasting is the last medium where nobody knows how many downloads we have. So I'm just telling people, we get thousands of downloads a week.
Yeah, that's great.
When it's you know, half of that. But the fact that anybody is listening is very nice.
I think what you just said is huge in entertainment in general, but especially for magicians, because I feel like we need to always remind ourselves we are just doing card tricks. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're great, and they can transport some people somewhere and give someone a Santa Claus moment as an adult, which is huge.
Sure. But
at the end of the day, like, I don't know. Sometimes I just think there can be this thing with magicians where it's like, and now.
Taking it way too seriously. Yeah. I mean, I love Copperfield had a great quote of, I take the work very seriously while trying not to take myself too seriously.
So good.
And it's a great line, and I always remind myself of that. But all this being said, to play devil's advocate, anytime somebody from like a corporate profession will be like, you only work for 30 minutes? I lose my shit.
You have no... I spent 14 years learning this slide.
I traveled on 3 planes. You know, I spent a week just prepping the show, or figuring out what's going to work, and, you know, working on new material. So, when most 90% of people are just so appreciative and are just like, wow, that was great, that was wonderful, thank you so much, and that just means the world. And you can't take that. You take that with a grain of salt. It's like, thank you, awesome, but keep going. Don't you shouldn't live off that. But excuse me, when somebody who's a doctor, which has happened to me, go, oh, you only work for 30 minutes? That must not be bad at all. Like, yes, I work for 30 minutes 4 times a day in the humidity outside. This is when I was doing Disney, and I have to do it 12 times a week. Yes.
Oh yeah. It's taking a 30-hour work week just for me to get to your location.
Exactly.
Fordville, Nebraska, to do a show.
Yeah.
That same show, man, that Pachanga show where I was thinking about you and your podcast the whole time. That's the one where this guy comes up to me afterward and he's like, oh man, that was a fun show. It was great. And he's talking to me about this other gentleman that they've had perform at the venue. And he said, and can you believe, I think he actually makes his living doing it. And I just got off stage.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's funny how, like, people just can't comprehend it. Yeah. Oh, that was great. I mean, John Armstrong has a great line of, it's actually, he's in a documentary on Netflix called The Magicians, which is very good.
Okay,
he's a friend of mine, so I'm biased, but I think it covers 5 magicians, and his storyline is the most interesting to me, because he's just a dude working gigs, kind of what we do.
He's great. He's going to be at our Jokers and Aces.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a good friend. And he has a great line of, he can finish killing, essentially what you're saying, doing an amazing set, come off, and when somebody comes up and goes, "Oh, that was great, that was wonderful. So what else? So what else do you do to make money?" It's just, stab in the heart.
And then the follow up, what does your wife do?
Yeah.
She must be like,
she must
very
support
wealthy.
you, yeah. She must own a ketchup company or something. But yeah, I don't take it personally anymore. You really, Zen Philosophy and the book, The Four Agreements and things like that are very helpful in this business because it grounds you and makes you realize that once again it's just magic tricks.
That's so good. I told my wife recently, I said, my career goal is to perform for people who aren't eating.
Could you just not serve dinner while I'm doing the show? I know that's a hassle. And I know that scheduling the show after dinner or before dinner is a big deal, but I do bring people up on stage.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because I come from a family. My dad is a performer, so I grew up, and it's weird. I'm learning now that going out and doing shows for free or doing the artsy fartsy shows or the fun shows are super important. But I grew up with a dad who's a performer and made his living that way.
Yeah.
So it was always. I always saw, oh yeah, you can make money as a magician, or you can make money as a ventriloquist, which is what he did, and it was never kind of a question.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's taken me to hit 30 to realize how absurd that is in many aspects, and it's having a full-time job. It does have its appeals. Wait, you get vacation time, and you don't have to work on the weekends.
Insurance?
You get health insurance.
Health insurance?
What's that like?
Yeah.
Although when my wife was working at Disney full time, she got health insurance, and it was nice to have dental for once in my life. I will say that.
My favorite, we would go to the eye doctor or the dentist, and we'll be like, this will be out of pocket.
I have covered California. I just don't want to use it today because it's not going to cover anything.
Yeah. I've got a $5,000 deductible before I have to pay you $100 every visit.
Yes. Yeah. Which is, don't get me started on that.
Welcome to the Depression Hour with Nick and Taylor.
But that's one of the perks of doing magic tricks, I suppose.
It is fun, man. I think part of the challenge that we face as entertainers is that so often it's really great. Like, there's moments where you do a show that's awesome and the audience is into it, or you do a gig that really does pay well, and then we're always constantly comparing every other moment to that. We don't want diminishing returns.
Yeah. Yeah, you're only as good as your next show, so it's like, hey, that was a great show, and then you're like, oh, I was just thinking about this yesterday. I did, 5 days in a row of shows with the Castle. I did Comedy Magic Club the night before, and then I had 2 days off, and you just get this feeling of, and I have to do a set tonight, you get this feeling of, oh, I wonder if I can do that again. I wonder if I can pull it off again. I fooled them for this many days, but can I do it again? Fooling them in the sense of entertaining them, not in the sense of a magic sense.
Right.
So that never goes away for me. I'm getting more and more confident in myself, not in a cocky way, but in a way of just going, okay, yeah, I have the experience, I have the flight time of doing this, but every show is just like, well, could crash and burn.
Yeah. There's those moments of those freak out moments of like, what did I do that worked last time? Do I do that again?
And the truth is, it's so dependent on the energy of the audience, and you shouldn't rely on the audience, but you'll, like that show we did at Westside in July, that was just a hot audience. You could have went out there and made a ham sandwich and they would have been thrilled.
That was such a fun show.
And you just have to remind yourself of how fun you had, but at the same time remind yourself of it's always going to be different. It's never going to be that, that much high energy.
Yeah.
We're going too deep
into
this
stuff.
Man.
I'll edit this part out.
How long do you go?
Right.
I hit 45 minutes, and I'm like, yeah, we did it.
Well, we've done it. We're almost there, man. So most of mine end up being about an hour.
Yeah, it's fun.
But
We don't have to do a Pete Holmes that go for 4 hours.
Dude, I think I had one that was like over 2 hours. It was great.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be. You know? We can cut it. I love Pete Holmes.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. And he's a big fan of magic, too.
I know.
You Made It Weird podcast. If you like podcasts, you're not aware of it.
Welcome to the podcast where we pitch other people's podcasts.
I do that all the time. It's in my description. It's sort of like, if you like Nerdist and WTF, you may like this. It's really sad.
Oh, his podcast is what got me to do a podcast.
Sure.
His podcast, and then the conversation with artists like this. Because, I mean, all this is what we do before and after shows, sitting around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, this was always more interesting to me than, hey, how do you do your double lift? Or, what's your misdirection for this? That's not as appealing.
People don't need information. I think they need camaraderie. Like, they need, you know what I mean? At least that's what I need. I went through a really crappy time a couple years ago, and the only thing that got me through it were conversations like this and listening to podcasts and getting some solidarity from other entertainers and going like, okay, I'm not the only one who's dealing with stuff.
Podcasts, saved my life living in Orlando because I just didn't have that many friends. And
you were working at Disney at the time.
Yeah, you had a contract and you're doing shows and it's awesome, but that's all you're doing. And I didn't have as many social interactions, as many friends as I do out here, which I feel super lucky about. But it was just my wife and my dogs, and which is great. You're lucky to have that. But podcasts certainly it was nice to know other people were going through the same experiences and seeing this the same way. So it's been a super beneficial thing.
There's something about like I feel like it's one of the few mediums where people are kind of vulnerable. You know, like most stuff in entertainment, everybody's so polished. Like,
I almost can't watch. I love talk shows. Like Conan and Colbert are my favorites.
Talk about it.
But it's hard to watch some of the interviews sometimes because, like, so tell me, I guess you had a squeaky bathroom door. Like, how do you know that? Why?
Yeah.
That's a very specific thing.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend last night. About the fact I love the Tonight Show. I would go on anytime, Jimmy. By the way,
give me a call. By
Jimmy
the way,
does not listen to this podcast. But I've always been since I was a kid, huge fan of the Tonight Show. Always thought like if I could ever do that would be great.
Sure.
But after a while, you just go, it's another 7-minute conversation about something that doesn't matter. Like, someone, they picked up frozen peas instead of carrots, and wasn't that funny when they got home? And I love this medium because it gives people a chance just to chill out a little bit and get past that 10 minutes of,
awkwardness.
Yeah.
That's why I love Craig Ferguson's late night show. And if you're watching, he would literally, guests would come out, he would take the pre-show cards and rip them up in front of him. And the guests that were like so polished, what we were talking about, you would see their face go, wait, why are you doing that?
That's great. That's great.
But he would always the conversation would always be immensely funnier and more interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, so do you go to therapy? He just goes right into it.
Totally, dude.
He has a show on Sirius XM right now, which makes me really happy.
It's really good.
It's very good.
Yeah. That's another thing. I splurge on satellite radio because I spend so much time in the car.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
It is a good thing, man.
Yeah, podcasts and having Apple Music and things like that are great, but it's also nice just when you're in a rush and you're getting in your car and something's already playing or you know what time. It's cool to have that old school thing because everything's on demand nowadays. It's nice to go, it's 3 o'clock. Craig's show is on, turn the dial.
True.
It's not, you don't get to, I don't have cable, so like that's not a thing anymore for me.
I was trying to explain to my daughters that we used to have to watch a show on TV when it came on.
Yeah.
They couldn't fathom that. Like, the whole family, 8 o'clock on a Friday night, we're going to sit down and watch Full House.
TGIF.
And if you didn't watch it, that was it. Like, you might
have to wait for the rerun.
Yeah. You might get lucky in a year from now.
You'd have the TV guide. You'd see what was coming up. Oh, this is going to be on today at this time.
That's that. And you could record it on, like, your VCR if you had, like, the one with the remote that was wired to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I've grown up in the VCR era, but listening to I hate it when people just assume I'm saying they're old. They're not, but just like listening to people tell stories of before VCRs were around, where it's like if you want to see a movie, you have to go see it. Like My dad went and saw Star Wars in the theater like 10 or 11 times just because it's like, well, it's the only time I'm going to see this, you know? That's something you don't do anymore.
I didn't even think about that like there was no even thought that someday this will be available at home.
Exactly, yeah. It might be on TV later on, but nobody knew when that would be. Yeah, the sense of just like living in the moment and just... But I think I was talking to Jack Goldfinger, who entertainment director. Yeah. We were talking about this that's the great thing about live entertainment. It's kind of the last medium of you have to be here now and show up, or else you miss it. Yeah, and I think that's what's going to be kind of our saving grace.
I think everybody's right, man.
So worried about the Instagrams and the Facebooks taking over, but. Man, you don't get the same satisfaction of sitting there watching a 30-minute show live as it's happening as you do watching it on your phone.
Yeah. Well, and this is where comics are championing this, but like live theater, you see someone pull out a phone, I can't count the times I've seen comedians shut them down. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're here. Like, it's not going to be better later on your crappy picture on your phone. Yeah. Like, just be here in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, when they call it out, it's like this is 3D. That is 2D right now. This is a much Scott Neary, whose show we're going to tonight.
Yeah, the movie.
He's called that out before. He's like, this is real life. This is 1080p right here.
I don't understand. I just don't know, what are they going to do with that video?
Well, you see it at concerts now, and it's getting more and more to the point. And we kind of my buddy David, who I was talking with, we kind of did a whole bit about this where I came out and I had a picture of an old-timey phone because I came out as this old character from 1917, and then I grabbed somebody's real phone and I'm just like mesmerized by it. And at the end I don't want to give it back, and he's like, no, and he has a line of, progress was a good idea, but it's gone on too long.
That's great.
And he's somebody who's like so anti-cell phone, and if he sees people on their phone at the castle, he's just, loses it, because like this is a special place. And that's what's so cool about the castle is no photos. You know, that's what keeps the mystery alive. Everything is so accessible nowadays, and so like you can look it up. But the fact that places like that still exist, you don't know what it looks like on the inside unless you've been there, is a big deal.
I dig that so much, man. Like the castle still, to me, and being someone on the inside who does magic and has performed there, like I turn into a 5-year-old kid when I walk in there every freaking time. Like. It's one of the spaces I've allowed myself just to go, stop, don't, like, just shut it off. Just enjoy,
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to get dressed up. Like, my favorite line at the castle is to ask people, how many of you are wearing a suit you purchased today? And I guarantee 50% of the audience every show.
Borrowed a suit.
Because, like, people don't dress up anymore.
Yeah, it's so sad. But you know what? I learned something. If you want to, like, have a really good time at Disneyland, dress up. I was going to, somebody got us into that secret club, Club 33, and we had to be a little bit dressed up.
Yeah.
And everybody treats you with respect at Disneyland. But that's kind of it, too. If you're traveling, the secret is just wear a suit or wear a blazer.
You can get into anywhere with a suit.
Oh, my God, yeah. Just walk in with confidence. And, it's so funny.
Yeah, people ask you questions. I always just answer them, too. I don't ever say I don't work here. I just, if I don't know, I'll just make something up.
Yeah, it's over in that aisle over there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 10 down to your left.
Talk about more slice.
Well, I personally like the back palm because it's better than the front palm.
How can I get on the lecture circuit?
Have you been getting those ads on your Facebook feed of start working on cruise ships today?
Yes.
Who are these? I like to keep clicking on them so it costs them money. Then I realize it's just going to show up on my Facebook feed more because I've told the algorithm I'm interested.
The algorithms creep me out, man. It really does. Like, it weirds me out when my wife will be on her iPad searching on Google, and then on Amazon on my phone it tells me I should buy that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's weird, man.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It's all connected, man. It's all part of the game.
All in the net.
Facebook isn't free. We're just pumping them.
I love people that are just
stats.
willingly buying Alexas and Google voice things. They're just like, you know that's listening to you all the time.
Yes, I just got a new iPhone, and my old one didn't have the deal where, like, if you open up your email, it gives you responses, like 3 different You see? So, like, if I open my email and before I've even read it, it has 3 options of, like, yeah, that's great. I'll be there at 5. Because it literally is like reading your email and then like...
Mine doesn't do that. That's crazy.
It's super creepy, man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're all gonna be taken over by robots soon. It's just a matter of time.
Dude, how do we get back on the tracks there? See, this is the point of my podcast where I just let it roll. And eventually we
There are no tracks.
It ends with
the train crashed
and talking
weeks
about
ago.
Summer camp when we were children.
I don't want to talk about that story. That's a dark story.
Oh, dude. Did you go to summer camp?
I went to band camp.
Dude.
And I went to church youth group camp.
Yeah, I went to so many church youth group camps.
Yeah, which I actually had a really good time. I met a lot of great people. But yeah, band camp. I distinctly remember my first 9th grade band camp experience because 2 years later we learned that the place was shut down because inmates were hired to work it.
What?
And a man,
like a children's camp, or like a junior high or something.
Yeah, we were all in high school, and I always remember a shirtless man who called himself Kunta Kinte was always spending time with the girls in the flag color guard squad. And even in 9th grade, I'm like, this doesn't seem right.
Isn't it weird to think back to like moments when you were younger and go, I shouldn't have been in that. Like,
yeah,
that shouldn't. I remember a moment where I was walking down the street and this guy pulled up and like rolled down his window and had a card fan of $100 bills, like, yeah. And
Did he want you to get in the van, or was he just showing it off?
He never like said anything. He just looked at me like, I was like, I think I should probably not be near this person.
Yeah, I always remember. This goes back to being creepy, but there was a guy. Back in Michigan, it was the Oakland County child killer, and he, 4 kids were just randomly abducted, and my teacher was telling me about it. He's like, I'm pretty sure I had an experience with the dude.
With the guy?
He was walking along the street one time, and a guy pulled up and wanted him to get in the van, and it was, matched the description and anything. And he's like, that's so creepy to think about. It's like, oh, you could have been one of those victims,
right? But
you just had the sense not to, to get away from that situation. Not saying, obviously something terrible happened and those kids were clearly, I'm going down a terrible, terrible road now. But just thinking of, how your life could have just been altered in a second.
Bro, I'm telling you, I was driving out here to meet you this morning and just feeling really grateful. Just this whole idea of life is precious, it's short. At any moment, anything could happen. Sure. Every time you look at your phone now, I just get sadder. But
yeah,
something has happened. That's
I don't
crazy.
understand. I don't know if you do. I'm alienating a lot of people, but people have news alerts that always pop up on their phone. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to know that this building exploded?
Yeah, and they're always the worst because it's clickbait. They want it to really freak you out.
I have Apple News. I'll check from time to time just to keep up. To see if our government's still functioning, but.
The world's on fire? Cool. What do I have for lunch?
And literally Friday it was because the mountains were on fire.
Dude, you've got the mountains on fire here. You've got Houston flooded.
Yeah, you got another hurricane coming.
North Korea is not liking us.
But you know what? It's in a weird way.
Yeah.
I am in. All these terrible things have happened, but you see just amazing things of humanity. My wife and I are big animal advocates, and we saw that a few rescues really needed help. They were getting stuck, they couldn't get their animals out.
Yeah.
So we're messaging friends in in Texas.
Yeah.
Do you have a boat? Do you know anybody that has a boat? And nobody did, but I just shared this thing out, and I got 100 shares of people I don't know. And eventually all these animals got saved, and it's just it does warm your heart to know that hate. I think we were, with the election, whatever your political preference was, I think that a lot of us felt that hate triumphed, and that was the toughest thing to function. It's you cannot agree with somebody, but to feel that just hatred and bigotry had taken over, that was the toughest thing to swallow about that. But seeing amazing stories of humanity and just people helping one another who probably didn't vote the same way and don't look the same way just because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's sad it has to come to that point.
Right. And that's one of the things that always tends to come out of huge tragedies or, catastrophic events is that people come together and go, oh, we're all humans. Like, we're all trying to figure this out together, you know? Mm-hmm. It's amazing that we can't just do that all the time, you know? But it isn't. It's encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, the phrase "kindness is magic" is always. I always try to go back to that when I'm just in a crappy mood and I'm being a not good person, not good imitation of myself, which happens from time to time, driving or traveling or being annoyed by dumb people. But you just try to take a step back and go, all right, just be nice, because it makes it, because it's so. People are so. It's so easy to be mean, and it's so easy to react negatively to people, but to react positively influences more and helps. And, you know, I'm just now learning that, you know, turning 30 and trying to constantly remind myself of that. And it's hard, you know, when I'm born as someone who's just genetically cynical and genetically sees the worst in things. And my mother and father will tell you that. And my wife as well. But I think if you can, I don't know, work on it and try to be nice. How do we get here? I don't know.
It's good. It's good, man. I mean, even going back to entertainment, like just being nice and caring and being on behalf of other people, whether it's other entertainers that you work with, it's huge.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many opportunities I've been blessed with just because at some point when it didn't seem like there was an opportunity, I was there for someone. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, or guys that I think of to recommend for events or shows or things just comes because it's like, oh, this person is a good dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it really just comes down to that is, you know, are you a good person on stage and off stage? Because coming to LA where everybody's amazing and still meeting entertainers, guys who've had TV shows and do all these like big things and are still nice people.
Yeah.
That says a lot because, I don't know, I feel like there's more, in a weird way, there's more ego, this isn't 100% true, but there is a lot more ego when you're a big fish in a small pond because you're like, oh, I'm the best. I can do this. I can do that.
Yeah.
But you see guys out here who are the best, but are still accessible and still, I don't know. I think you need a healthy amount of ego. You need to, like, that keeps you getting back up on stage. Like, oh, okay, I guess I'm good at this and I need to get better at it.
Yeah.
But, Well,
and there's always opportunities. And so one of the things that's encouraging is that there's a lot of opportunities in LA, but also that, like you said, anyone could be coming up who's going to be the best and everyone's going to want them to do their thing. You know what I mean? So it keeps you staying humble and appreciative and grateful for what you do have. And it's funny.
We're gonna start crying.
No,
now.
it's
getting real, man.
Well, I was thinking about how like some of the best comics that I know and I listen to and I love, even a guy like Pete Holmes, who's got his own HBO special. He's doing a second season on his TV show. He's got one of the most popular podcasts. Most of the world has no idea who he is.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many opportunities that I think it's kind of built in this little bit of humility where it's like, someone's like, well, I got this deal and that's great, but there's other deals I don't, you know.
Well, you're always, it's funny because there's just so many more opportunities now, but it makes you more hungry and it makes you realize that none of this is finite, you know. It could all go away.
It could, yes. I want to ask you this because your podcast is focused on magicians, and most of the time I'm trying to avoid talking too much about magic because I geek out and love it, but I feel
guess,
like other people...
For anyone who hasn't listened, I try to not talk about magic, but I guess I have a lot of magicians on, but I think we, kind of similar to you, we talk about the performance experience. So
if you are not a magician, don't know anything about it,
I always want
a huge amount of wisdom and direction and thought from listening to your podcast.
I would be so happy if a majority of my audience wasn't magicians. Nothing against magicians, but just to give it to people who are interested in entertainment.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I wanted to ask you about this because I kind of had this epiphany. I don't even know if it's epiphany for most people, but for me it was. But this idea that like most magicians, their business model is they're event entertainers. They perform for an event someone else is putting on, whether it's a corporate or a trade show or a cruise ship or a birthday party. Most magicians are waiting for or seeking someone to hire them to bring them to their event.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that event's over, and they got to go find more work. What do you think the future for like magicians is? I know a lot of people are doing like they're kind of four-walling their own shows and doing. I know you've done Fringe and different things like that.
Yeah. Lost money on Fringe is great. Always fun. Actually, Orlando Fringe, I think all the money I put in, I netted about $500, which is pretty good for a Fringe. That's really good.
It's great.
I think Hollywood. This year I think we broke even, which was good. I did the show with John Armstrong and Simon Cornell in Handsome Jack, and we broke even, which was awesome. But the year before I did my own show, and I think I lost about $800, but still pretty good for a Fringe.
Right.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out now. I'm in this zone if I really want to just find something entertainment-wise or I don't know what it is, but to supplement the income. So the income's coming from one place, and then I can perform when I want to.
Oh, yes.
That seems like an impossible task, but that's kind of – you asked about goals. I guess that's kind of the goal for the future.
But still within entertainment.
Yeah, theoretically. Yeah. But also, it's like I've been helping out a little bit on Justin Willman's Netflix show. I don't call myself a consultant. I'm just coming in, helping them glue things, helping them. Yeah. I asked him like, hey, if you need help, I'll come in, free of charge anytime you need me. And he was like, oh yeah, sure, that'd be awesome, thanks. And that's been fun to see a whole different side of magic because I've never worked on a TV show before, and I've never had to like create tricks on the fly. Just like inventing all these methods and taking existing ideas and changing them. So that's kind of cool. It would be cool to keep doing stuff like that.
Totally, yeah.
But I'm sorry, I'm making this about me. I'm so selfish.
No, that's what it is. That's what it is.
But as far as like the rest of it goes, I don't know. The corporate market is always dependent on how well the economy is doing.
Right.
So it seems to be slowing down a little bit. Last couple of years it was doing well. So people will continue to hire magicians and entertainers. I don't know if I would have to – like my dad runs an entertainment agency out of Michigan, and he's been around since the mid-'70s in various capacities, and they've gone from doing like exclusively bands to Parks and Rec events to now doing more higher-end corporate stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of ebbs and flows. Like they were booming in the 90s, and then it kind of slowed down in the 2000s, and, it's coming back up. They're doing – so just kind of watching his experience – has been enlightening, but you just have to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
There is this, it's like you said, you do the gig and it's done. You can kill at a corporate gig. Kill. And they're like, all right, we'll call you maybe in 4 years.
Right. And they loved you.
Yeah. And you're destroyed. But they don't want to have you back 2 years in a row because they want different stuff. And they only have so much of a budget that they want to, try out new things. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I've done private events for like 12 years professionally, but it's not my favorite thing to do. I love doing, like I said, collaborative things, and if I can move into that vein, awesome. But yeah, who knows where the future of private events is, because you have all these like online sites now like GigSalad and Gigmasters and that are like micro agents that get people to pay the cheapest amount possible, and they don't care about the entertainment. I signed up for GigSalad again when I was in Macau. I'm like, I have a little bit extra cash. Might as well try it out again, see how it's going.
Yeah,
I've booked one thing on it in 8 months, and it's just because everybody wants to spend $150, $200.
Oh yeah,
and they don't care about your credentials. They don't care about everybody's equal in their eyes there, which really is a bummer. So I think that's dangerous. I think that's dangerous for the future of entertainment. So, but on the flip side, word of mouth is still the best way to get booked.
Yeah.
And that's very strong in LA. You see that a lot in LA. And anytime I'm booked word of mouth, you show up and the client is always more comfortable. They're more confident in you. They're not worried about what's going to happen.
Right.
And you've spent no money on advertising to get it, so you're effectively making more money that way. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. I'm still just figuring it out. I've redone my website a cajillion times, and I just did it again. I'm finally like really happy with it.
Yeah.
And I think it looks super good for what I'm going for, and the look and the style and the character and the product I'm selling. You know. But who knows? I mean, I'm not an expert on it. There are many great books on it that, you know, are super helpful, and I need to keep reading and keep exploring.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird how you have to adapt constantly, you know. Mm-hmm. I remember when Gig Masters first came out, it was great for me. Like, I mean, for 2 years, I had
it in Chicago. I was booking stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah. And now I don't book anything off it, you know.
And where do you think the future is?
I don't know, man. It's kind of a weird question now that I'm hearing you ask it of me. I mean, it's weird to think, like, what is the future across the board? But, like, when I was a kid, magic was, you know, world's greatest magic, and, you know, you're going to be on TV, and then you're going to get a Vegas show. Yeah. And nobody's making money in Vegas anymore.
No, you have to pay for everything now in Vegas.
So, I don't know. I know for me, I just want to do a show people came to see.
Yeah.
Whatever your performance style is, I think the future for anybody is going to be, where's your audience? Mm-hmm. And realizing your audience may not be someone else's audience, you know? How does a magician, I know like comedians, they connect with an audience and then they have, you know, a following and they can tour or they can put out a theater show, or how does a magician gain an audience if we're always just going to someone else's event?
Oh, we're seeing that with comedians. You see that with guys like Mike Birbiglia, who've like kind of created their own following.
Right.
But they've been doing it now for like, over 10 years.
Oh, totally.
So using this medium of the internet and his writing in movies and stuff. And so now we're kind of in an interesting space of, okay, how do they keep doing that? How do you keep that following?
Oh, yeah.
Do they just stay loyal the whole time, or does it fizzle off, and do they get distracted and see other things because there's so much content out there? I don't know. I think if you can find your little audience and your little following, I mean, Pete Holmes talks about that in his podcast. That's why he keeps doing the podcast. It's so beneficial. He says when he has people that listen to his podcast in his audience, the shows are always better because they know what they're coming for. Yeah. You're not just showing up at a comedy club for people who don't. I don't know. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's just trying to get to a point of, like you said, people actively showing up to the show that they knew they were going to come see. I'm just so used to doing shows where, in a good way, nobody knows who I am, and nobody, if I'm doing like a street show at Disney, which I do from time to time, those people didn't know they were about to see a show. Music started, set up, grabbed a kid, and an audience starts forming, and they're like, okay, I guess we'll watch a show now.
Right.
But they don't know anything, and that's kind of a good place to be in, because you can go anywhere from there, or else it's a bad place to be in, because you constantly have to like win over the audience, which it's not always the case, but every once in a while that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's advantages to both. I mean, Seinfeld always talks about, he's like, oh, I'd love to go back and be unknown and do stuff. I'm like, would you?
Would you really?
Do you want to trade in all that money? Because I think it'd be fun for about 5 minutes.
Listen, we're there. It's not great.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
I mean, but the funny part is when we kill now, though, like when we did that show, We Kill Now, I think it means more. Because that audience had no clue.
You had to earn it. Yeah.
We earned it more, as opposed to them buying tickets and knowing all your stuff and your personality.
Yeah, that's true.
They were already expecting to have a good time.
Yeah,
they can be easier. They can be let down easier. Yeah. But you can also, they can be the opposite, where they can just give you some more slack. Yeah, so you don't know if something is actually good or not.
Yeah. It's shows like that, man, that I look forward to. Which is why I do them, you know? Mm-hmm. I do a lot of stuff that I don't make any money off of because, it gives me something to look forward to. When the other day I was like in Denver at this nice resort, getting flown out, put up in a nice hotel, get paid good, and all I could think about was going to Nerdist and doing a set in the back of a dumpy comic book store. Like, You know what I mean?
It's funny, yeah.
It's weird.
Well, that Denver show is paying for your ability to do that.
And then you realize, like, oh, I need to be grateful for what I have. And
yeah. It can always be worse.
Yes.
I came back from 3 months of solid work in Macau at the House of Magic, and I get back here, and I knew it was going to be slow, but it was really slow.
And when you say solid work, you were doing like 3, 4, 5 shows a day sometimes?
Sometimes 8. Yeah.
The same
5 or 6 nights a week.
15-minute set?
Same 15 minutes.
Silent?
For Chinese audiences that had never really experienced entertainment before, so they're kind of just staring at you. If you want the full experience, go to the Macau sessions on my podcast.
There's like
it gets a little bit depressing halfway through.
Like that?
Yeah, we did 8. Yeah, because we were there for 13 weeks, so we tried to do one a week. But there was a couple weeks where we're like, nah, we shouldn't do an episode this week.
I would encourage you to start at episode 1 and work your way through. Because there is a definite change in the tone.
Yeah, I would. If you don't want to listen to all of them, start with 1. Go to the existentialist episode where we got really dark.
Yes.
That was the week Daryl committed suicide, so we're just kind of processing that. And then the last episode is us just being like, we're free, we're out of here. But yeah, so it's just, anyway, going back to being grateful, just knowing that it's not constant, it's an up and down flow.
Yeah, I heard recently someone said this. So this guy goes to see Bob Dylan's concert, and he's so excited because he's been working with Bob, and so he got really good seats. Like, he's up in the orchestra, and he's in the orchestra, and he's just waiting for the show, and he's so stoked. And this lady peeks around the corner, who he had recognized from when he worked with Bob, and she goes, come here, come this way. And she takes him backstage, and he's like, now I'm backstage, and I'm, there's tables and there's chairs, and it's this really nice like room, and they've got buckets of beer, and he's like, oh, this is rad, And she's like, no, keep coming, you got to go to the lounge. So she takes him to the lounge, and in the lounge now there's a lady walking around with trays of drinks. And he's like, and they're, nicer chairs and nicer tables. And can this get any better? And she's like, no, the VIP lounge. So he goes in the VIP lounge, and now Jack Nicholson's over here talking to a supermodel, and, now people are waiting on them hand and foot. And he's just like, this is the best thing ever. And she's like, no, Bob wants to see you. And so she invites him into Bob Dylan's green room, which is this dumpy little room. And he's just sitting there in a chair with his shirt off. And he said, it reminded him that people are always trying to get to something, and sometimes when you get to that thing you've been trying to get to, it wasn't even the thing that you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's great.
But all along the way, there's these different moments, and they're all different, and they're all great for what they are, but you need to just appreciate whatever room you're in at the moment.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great metaphor. Yeah, it's always, the grass is greener is so true to this. You always think it's going to be one thing, and then it's just, oh, okay, that was fun.
Yeah.
Now, this is nothing like what I thought it was going to be.
Nothing at all, man. Entertainment's nothing like I thought it would be, but it's really freaking cool.
It is.
And it's a fun journey, and you get to meet cool people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do podcasts.
In dark rooms. Well, I think that's good. That's like, what, hour 16 in there.
I know, right?
We've already done 2 of my podcasts.
This is 14 episodes of Two Magicians.
I'm in and out, man.
Oh, dude. Well, thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me, and I'm very much liking the studio. This would also be just a great place to go and let off some steam.
Yeah.
Just scream.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like they can still hear you, though.
Yeah. Is it just decorative? Like,
I feel like they just kind of half-assed it. They're like, yeah, we got an audio studio. It's great.
That's cool. They're like, we can put this on the brochure.
And it is.
Yeah.
That's why I pay $100 more.
You're like, $100 more, but I get to have my own studio. Well, dude, thank you, man.
Thanks, Roddy. This was fun.
I'm going to push stop, but we can keep talking.
Okay, good.